everybody, and welcome to another episode on Ask the Answers podcast with myself, Adele. And on today's show, we have got the lovely Ashley joining us today. Hello, Ashley.
Hi, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. And how are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. Doing
Good.
well.
Amazing. Ashley, how long have you been working with Ask the Answer for?
I think about 2 weeks. Like it hasn't been long at all.
Oh, nice. Oh, so this is brand new, you being part of our company.
Yeah. But it's been
Fantastic.
great.
So what brought you to Ask the Answer? What was it that stood out for you wanting to join the team?
I think just how connected it seemed to people, like really doing longer readings. I think a lot of the platforms, they do really short readings and you can't really get into or helping people. But doing like 20 minutes, I think really brings people the answers that they need. And it really connects people to the psychic as well so that they feel like they can get to know us too. So that's really what connects me.
Brilliant. And prior to joining our team, I mean, have you been a psychic all your life? Is it something that started in your childhood or something you've come in at a later stage in your life?
I think it started at later stage when I recognized it. I mean, like when I was a kid, I was very intuitive. I picked up on things. I had dreams about the most asinine things, but they would happen, whether it was just me talking to somebody. But I think when I became an adult and I really started like exploring tarot for myself, and then like back in college when I was about 17, 18, and then it kind of built from there when I went through my own Saturn return. And then I was trying to look for answers. And that's when it kind of started to really click for me like, oh, there's an ability here.
Mm-hmm. For people listening, they might have thinking, what is a Saturn return? You just mentioned that. What is it?
It's basically when Saturn comes back into the placement that it was when you were born. It happens, I think, every 26, 27 years, because it's a slow moving planet. And it's like a big transformative time, where you start questioning things in life. And when you're about 26, 27, it's the first Saturn return. So it almost allows you to be like an adult of like, who are you going to be as an adult? So typically big transformations happen. I mean, for me, it was like a breakup. I moved to Australia. I got a new job. So a lot happened during that time.
Oh, that's funny. I wonder if people like look back now and think, oh yes, gosh, at that time that was a transformation period for me. Because I know myself, my dad passed away when I was 27, and I remember at the time thinking, I'm gonna have to stand on my own 2 feet now. I haven't got that, the father figure, so to speak, to guide me through things. And it was a bit, your first loss of a parent really hits you hard, especially in your 20s, because you're still trying to find yourself, you're going out, you're socializing, you don't know what you want to do or what you want to be, and your social groups change quite a bit. So that was a very sort of challenging time for me. So what you're saying there is really making sense for my own life at that period of time.
Yeah. It kind of hits you. And it's also coinciding with, science where your brain is fully developed and it's like, okay, now how is it to be an adult? And then you find out like being an adult is not what it's cracked up to be sometimes.
Yeah, lots of responsibilities. So for you, is it anything that's running the family? Is it something that you've learned from other people, or have you literally just done it all on your own and self-development yourself?
So I learned Theta Healing, which is a way to kind of get into a theta state, a meditative state, and do healing on yourself, past life, generational, childhood, and soul level. That's sort of where I started. And then ancestrally, my lineage is from like Nigeria, Benin. And I, did ayahuasca. Like I connected with my ancestors, and I have ancestral lineage in the Gungun men, and they're like spiritualists that connect to the spirit guides. And then they tell people what the spirit guides are saying. So it's ancestral. And I kind of had to find out that out myself. But I did different explorations in sort of spirituality where I did learn some skills of, clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, which are different ways you can connect to energy with the body. And then also like I had to do a lot of shadow work. And I think that helps a lot because once you are kind of able to kind of clear all the wounding and sort of reconnect back to source energy, I think it really does help you become even more psychic. I think everybody is psychic. It's just a matter of, being able to connect to, the energy of all that is, and hear that outside of all the noise that the society puts on us.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Have you got a stronger sense than others? Some people say they're more clairvoyant or clairaudient, or the mediumship comes through more. Do you have a specific way of working that works for you?
Yeah, I feel like I'm more clairaudient, which is through my ears, or clairsentient and claircognizant. So clairsentient is feeling, claircognizant is just a knowing. I can do clairvoyance, like I can see things and get images of things, but it's kind of like third or fourth on the list. It's like an additive to
Yeah.
what I'm feeling and sensing already.
Yeah, okay. And over the years, what sort of experiences have stood out that the psychic world has impacted your life?
It's just made things more safe for me. I think I grew up, I grew up with two parents that were in the military, military officers, and there was a structure and a way to be. And for me, that didn't really align with my reality, and I didn't understand my reality, because I always had this intuitive gift in me, and so I was always very spiritual. So it made things more clear of like, okay, this is the direction I'm supposed to be heading. This is my life path. It made, my life path and my work and how I wanted to show up in service easier. It also helps me navigate really hard times. And I had anxiety and depression, since the age of 10. And it really helped me to, be in those really, really hopeless, dark moments and thinking there's no way out. And, there's always spirituality and this connection to source
Mm.
that led me out of those dark times and made
Yeah.
me want to love myself and be of service in the ways that's true to me,
Mm.
time and time again. So I think it really saved my life, to be honest.
Wow. And it is, I know, like I mentioned about in my 20s, using my father, I started working on another psychic show from 24 up until I was 32. I was there for a long period of time. But I always remember thinking, I wonder how different it would have been for me, because it was, I had almost like a psychic family around me that were really sort of, every time I came to work, were so positive and uplifting. So even though my world was, a little bit challenging at that time and going through, like I said, growing up, and I went through a lot of losses, having that network of, the meditations and the empowerment and the crystals and all these things that I'd walk into work and it was so positive, it was such a lovely
Mm.
energy to be around when everything else was a little bit chaotic in my life. It sort of brought me home. It made things seem clearer. It gave me understanding as well of things, giving a bit of clarity on why things are going on and how long they'll be going on for, and what do we do or how do we overcome them. It's such a lovely, it's not a scary thing. It's a lovely thing to be part of.
Yeah. Yeah, it really does. And that's another thing too. It does bring you closer to, your tribe, so to speak,
Mm.
because a lot of my friends are very spiritual. Like my best friends are also like psychic. So it just, we've gotten closer together and we can talk about, deeper things than, the weather,
Yeah, yeah.
because we do have that understanding.
Yeah, no, it's really good. And you mentioned you moved and went to Australia. Whereabouts in the world are you now?
I'm in France. I'm in Paris.
Oh, wow. Lovely. And what brought you there?
Uh, just a feeling. I mean, like that's how I've like moved to most places. I'm just like, oh, I go there, it feels good, I stay,
And can you speak French?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. I'm better now. Yeah.
How long have you been there for?
A month, but I've lived
Oh,
here before during COVID, which was not great. And then a little bit in March, but I've come back longer now.
yeah. So are you a bit of a traveler, free spirit? Have you been to other places or lived in other places?
Yeah. Yeah, I've lived in London for on and off for 9 years. I lived in Australia for a year. I lived in Mexico for a few months. So, yeah, and like I lived in Panama when I was a kid, but like I've always loved traveling, and I don't like living in my home country. So I typically find ways to leave.
And do you find when you go to these places, you are trying to connect with the spiritual environment around you? Is it something you're drawn to? Or, are you going there for separate reasons or different reasons?
I think I go for different reasons. I mean, when I moved to London, I was, 21, and I just wanted to go to law school at the time, and I just felt like it was home. And I think it's because like I'm very connected to my past lives, and I think I've had so many past lives in so many different places that it just connects me to the land, and there's a purpose and a reason I should be there at the time. Like if I'd love to find a spiritual community, but I don't go out and seek it, because sometimes I did that in Mexico. And I feel like sometimes when you go out and seek something and force something, it doesn't always come back at you with the same flow of energy.
Hmm.
And so now I'm just like, I'm very open to meeting my tribe. The right people will come meet me.
Yeah.
I'm here for a purpose, for a reason, for some reason.
Hmm.
And I'm just going to follow my heart.
Yeah, no, that's a good way to look at it. And over the years, I mean, obviously you do your psychic work, but I'm sure, if correct me if I'm wrong, you must have had other jobs along the way. I mean, what sort of job and industries have you been in?
So I was in investment banking for 5 years. I was a compliance officer, where I was in Australia and London, and I had a bit of a burnout. And now I do sort of brand strategy and fundraising strategy for myself, for grassroots organizations and nonprofit organizations. I also do content creation for mission-driven startups and mission-driven startups and businesses. So that's sort of my strategic work.
Yeah.
Um, and I sort of need that structure. Like I said, I grew up in a
Yeah.
military background. So, I did go to law school. I did the whole, straight path, the
Mhm.
path that, my parents wanted me to take and I wanted to take as well. So I do have that, but I also have the spiritual world going on. And I also teach yoga too.
Oh, okay, nice. Oh, brilliant. And obviously, being a very intellectual woman and, the career path that you've taken, I mean, has that ever been a conflict with the psychic world? Have you ever questioned it and thought, oh, this is my imagination? Oh, have people ever sort of, you know, given like flyaway comments where you do doubt yourself? Has there ever been that in your life? Or have you been quite sure, no, this is definitely happening and that's happening?
No, I mean, I doubt myself all the time. I think, I'm an Aquarius sun, Pisces rising already. That's like the Pisces wants to be intuitive, the Aquarius wants to be like intellectual. And because of my, background and how I grew up, my parents really pushed excellence. And so I was like, well, to be excellent, it looks like this, it doesn't look spiritual. Both my parents are atheists, so I was just like, and they're not spiritual at all. So I was like, that's not where I'm supposed to be. So all the time, for a very long time, especially when I was working in investment banking, I was like, yes, I'm doing the spirituality by myself, but I felt like I had to hide that part of me.
Mhm.
Because if I told people, they would find it ridiculous, or they would say that that's not me.
Yeah.
And I really at the time believed in what other people were saying about me. Um, but once that gets unlocked, you can't really hide it. It will just become a bigger and bigger thing in your space.
Yeah.
And that's definitely what happened to me. And so I couldn't, at a certain point, and I think it was COVID, I just couldn't deny it anymore. And I just
Yeah.
had to kind of step into it and stand into it.
Yeah. And that's a good thing. Sometimes people look at the negatives of COVID, but for a lot of people, it was a breakthrough. It was a time for them to reflect. It was time for them to stop. It was time for them to reassess situations. And like yourself, going within yourself and finding, your spirituality a bit more and going more in that direction was a blessing in disguise for many.
Yeah, I feel like COVID really, you either awakened or you like doubled down.
Yeah.
And you probably did some of both, because I definitely did some of both. So
I did.
Yeah.
1 minute I was, because I'm a personal trainer, fitness instructor, and we started hard. We're doing all the online stuff, doing the fitness stuff, and really going for it. But I think about the third lockdown, I was having a glass of wine by 12 o'clock. I was like, nope, I am done. It used to be 4 o'clock after the school work, and then everyone I was speaking to, my mum like, it's 12 o'clock. Have a glass of wine now. I was like, oh god.
Yeah. I
it's
was
changed.
definitely there, because I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go hard. I'm gonna do all of this. I'm gonna structure this. I'm gonna talk to my friends, do a like pub quiz on Zoom, and then I was like, I can't do it anymore.
It ran its course. Everyone's ready to get back to it. So, I mean, for you, do you have a goal? Do you have an ambition? Have you got something you're striving for with this work?
Yeah, I think I want to expand my work. I mean, I've started doing corporate spaces. Like I read for the Tate. They were having Meshach Gaba's exhibits of modern African art, and I did that. And I recently did like a corporate event. So I do want to get into more corporate spaces and more event spaces with art and fashion and that kind of world, because they're a little bit more open-minded. But I do feel like spirituality needs to come to everyone, and they need to realize that it's actually a gift. It's not exclusionary. It's for everyone. And my goal is to really sort of open up minds that maybe are curious about spirituality, but want to do it and are open to it, and bring that to that space. And and as someone who's worked in a corporate space that was very, structured, and, there was no intuition. I do see, like, when you do actually start to bring intuition to that environment, not only does it make it more open for people to understand each other and can work better together, it makes it a more inclusive environment, and more creativity and innovation can come to that space.
Yeah. And I love that. I love it when you can coincide it with your everyday work and other elements of the world, because I know when I do my fitness classes, I always look at what's the spiritual energy for today, to get a sense of how people are going to be feeling in my class. And the amount of times that I'll talk about it, talk about the intention. So many people come up to me afterwards and go, that's exactly how I was feeling. I couldn't help but cry, because it felt like you were really like talking to me in that moment in time. And I love the fact I can use some of that spirituality just going into, a gym or, a club and delivering a class, and still, yes, it's high intense and fitness, but incorporating the spirituality into it and connecting with people on that level really does take effect, without me having to say, it is psychic and it is spiritual. Just talking hits, people quite, quite hard sometimes. It's great.
Yeah, I love it. And yeah, I mean, like, even in yoga too, it's like, when I teach people to kind of really come back to themselves, it's not about, oh, you can do the splits and you can do, like, handstand, and come back to yourself and really connect spiritually. People just relax, in my class. And I love that. And so I just really want to bring more of that to more people, to the mainstream.
Yeah. And how are you finding your phone calls? What are they like on Ask the Answer? What sort of people are you talking to?
I'm talking to very different people. I'm talking to more men, actually. Like, that's been really interesting. Not that I'm, scared or, trepidatious of that. It's just different, because a lot of women have done this work or are interested in this work, but to see men, I'm just like, wow, that's new.
And are they asking more business company questions, or is it more relationships, or quite varied?
Relationships, which I'm like, wow, this is incredible. Like, one of the clients, like, the way he was coming across, and I'd love to see more men. He was just so in his divine masculine, and we see a lot of, like, negativity about men, and male loneliness and all of this stuff. But to see, like, a lot more men getting into their spirituality, I just think is so impressive, and I love that.
Yeah, they want to learn, being accountable. What can they do? Yeah, nice. Yeah. Absolutely. And is it do you find it different, the structure of a reading with a guy, that masculine energy on the phone lines, to a woman? Do you find you have to be a bit more straight to the point, or can you connect more emotionally? How does it work? Does it vary?
I think I'm the same, like I think men and women can handle, like, I'm just very straightforward. I think, I'm too American for my own good, but like I'm just very straightforward, but I'm compassionate and caring, and
Okay.
they, like it as much as, the women that I've interact with like that
Yeah.
approach.
And is there any times when you're speaking to that person that you can also very much relate and empathize with some of the situation that maybe you've experienced in your own life?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think for me, it's like I try to take everyone, like, if I'm talking to myself, what I would want to hear. And I try to give advice like that. Like, I'm a very practical person. So if I don't try to read abstractly. I don't read abstractly. I try to get straight to the point, give details as to what they can do next. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's sort of how I read, and that's sort of how I come across. I'm not doom and gloom, but if I'm not seeing, bright lights and
Yeah.
butterflies, then I try to tell you, because I feel like I wouldn't want to be, told a story.
Lit up a garden path.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
exactly.
yeah. And is there any psychic readings or any experiences that have stood out to you over the years that you really like remember? Oh my gosh, that happened and that came into fruition. And is there anything that stands out to you? I know there's so many things that come through, I'm sure, but any sort of highlights?
Um, Not really. I mean, like, it always makes me happy when someone comes back and it's like, "Oh, you predicted this happened." You know? Because, as much as, like, yes, I'm a spiritualist, but I do have an ego and I like to be right. And I also like to be helpful.
Yeah,
So, like,
yeah, yeah,
so that's been nice. You know, I just think when people come back and they're like, "Oh, you've really helped me," that to me
mm,
is what I want. My goal is like, "You've really helped me. I wouldn't have gotten clarity in this if it wasn't for you." That's all I
mhm.
care about. I mean, nothing has like popped out. Sometimes I see things like, sometimes psychics don't see things exactly, but sometimes I've seen things. Like, one time, one of my friends came back and was like, "Oh, you predicted the exact place, the lights, the everything, the ambiance, you saw it." And I was like, "Oh, wow," like, so that's that to
Yeah,
me. But yeah, as long as I'm
yeah.
helping, I'm happy.
Yeah, and I think, like I said, that feedback when they do come back, I think it is important. So I said to my employee the other day, because we get given feedback every month of how we're all doing, and I've never had that in a job before, and it really does. Again, yes, it's nice for our ego, but it's nice to see how people have progressed, their success stories. It also does motivate us to know that we are doing a good job and that we are on track. And I imagine, as a psychic, you're not going into an office where there's loads of people around you. You are on your own doing this work, which I can imagine can be quite lonely sometimes if you haven't got people around you, supporting you or bigging you up, or someone to talk, even to offload your own things. If you've had a really heavy call, quite an emotional call, that
Mhm.
someone's talking about loss or grief or whatever it might be, when that phone ends, I know there's ways as a psychic you can clear the energy and
Yeah.
detach, but as a person, naturally you would still be thinking about them and thinking, I hope they're okay.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's the hardest thing. I think that's what I've learned with doing bigger events, where the end by the end of the day, I'm like drained, even though I've cleared my energy throughout the day. It's just like there's just a lot of people that come with very heavy grief, or they're going through something. And I do remember this lady that I read for at the Tate, um, who was having issues with her children, and the amount of grief that I felt, and I was like crying, and she was like,
Mm.
"Oh, I'm sorry," but it's like I'm just reading energy, and it's just flowing through me.
Uh,
I think that's the really big challenging thing. But I honestly feel like the client and the psychic, me as a psychic, and the clients are working together, and that's kind of our
yeah,
coworkers rather than having coworkers, which I think kind of is better because you can get an immediate feedback loop.
yeah, yeah. No, absolutely. You mentioned earlier on that you would get dreams that come through. Is that quite an often thing? Is it, randomly ever so often? Is it quite frequently for you?
It depends. Around like a new moon, full moon, I get dreams pretty often, particularly like a
Mhm.
full moon. Even now, like if I'm going through something difficult or if I'm going through something and I need guidance, my guides will just pop in and send a dream. And that dream doesn't necessarily indicate something that's about to happen. They typically are telling me a message of how to deal with what I'm going through. Um,
Mhm, mhm.
so that's happened as I've become an adult. I mean, I have had deja vu type of dreams where I'm talking to someone at lunch and I'm like, oh, this happened in a dream. But mostly
Yeah.
it's like a guide is trying to tell me, hey, do this, do that. uh,
Yeah, yeah.
or handle this like this, you know?
Which I imagine if you are busy during the day or, you've got lots of things going on, it's another way of them connecting while you're at rest.
Yeah, I think because like when when you are psychic and you're reading, you're for yourself, it's quite difficult because your ego is drawn. Whereas like reading for somebody else, my ego is not attached. So it's a lot easier to read. And I think because when I'm going through something, it's like my ego wants to know the answer and that can mess with the message. And so my guides are
Yeah.
coming through my dream to be like, this is what you need to do. And then it's much more clear than me reading for myself sometimes. So it does help a lot.
Yeah, that makes sense. Absolutely. And you mentioned that you were interested in past lives. Why are past lives so interesting for you? And what are the benefits? What do they mean for people that have never heard of one before?
Past lives, I mean, I don't like to project any belief on anybody, but past lives is a life in which you've lived before the one that you're living now. Your soul is a
Hmm.
soul, it's an energy. It can occupy many bodies. It's just a vessel. This is a physical vessel, but that's why people say you're a spiritual being living a human existence because the human existence can go and change. Um,
Yeah.
so past lives for me is so important because you learn in theta healing that you can gather trauma through those past lives or you can gather abilities through those past lives. It's not all doom and gloom. And your soul is like acquiring knowledge through these past lives. And personally, in my belief, a soul cannot ascend until it has fulfilled its mission in life. And it's
Hmm.
can be a short mission. It can be like, my mission was to have fun and be human. That could be your mission. Your mission could be deeper and more spiritual and say like, oh, it needs to ascend, and the ascension process is just, basically non-attachment to anything.
Hmm.
So past lives to me are so interesting because my soul is very old, and it has acquired many beliefs. It's acquired many experiences. It has acquired some traumas along the way, and it has taught me different things. And
Hmm.
I feel like my past lives have shown me also too, I'm connected to certain lands, certain places that I've gone to in this life. And I've
Hmm.
learned due to that, I've learned certain things, and it has helped my soul ascend further on its
Hmm.
mission. So that's why I'm interested in past lives. But some people are like, I don't believe in past lives. I don't believe in reincarnation. So I don't want to project that onto anyone.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, I find it fascinating. And also, like you said, when you can understand where fears or traumas come from in the past life and how or where you're drawn to something in this life can stem from a past life. You mentioned there, soul continuing on into a human vessel. Um, you know, how many human vessels will it go through? Or is it, again, that could be different. This could be my last time I'm in a human vessel. But then what would happen after that, would you believe? Where would I go? Would I then go into, animal? Do you go up to the universe? Is it done then? What happens?
It's based on what your soul wants. So I believe that souls pick whatever it wants to do. It can choose to go off planet for thousands of years. It doesn't have to go on Earth. It could be in another galaxy, be in another time space continuum. It can be an
Mhm.
animal. It can choose to just be a terrorist on earth. And I don't mean like, like someone who's just manipulating people, just getting away with stuff. Like it could choose whatever it wants to do. That's your soul's journey. My soul chose to have a spiritual life and chose to ascend. Well, that's a long journey, so it has to go through many human lives and some animal lives and off planet, and has done a lot of stuff. So every soul chooses what it wants. The human ego does not choose, in my opinion. It just kind of does what it kind of lives its human life, and then you have a divine life, and both of those kind of coincide. And sometimes they clash, and sometimes they kind of coincide and do, co-create things. So I believe it can also just disappear. It can, energy never, in my mind, never, I think the rule of energy is like it never disappears, and never, it can't be recreated, and it can't be destroyed. So
I love you say that. I love the fact that you said that, because I say it to my children all the time. I like to, and not in a morbid way, because I lost my parents very early on. I try to prepare them, make sure that death is not scary for them. It's going to happen to all of us at some point. But I always say, I might not be here as a human form, but my energy will still be around. My energy will still be around you. You'll be able to, sense me around, and, be able to talk to me. So I've always said that myself, that energy will always still be there. That is your soul that will continue on, even if I'm not physically here. So I love the fact that you've said that.
Yeah. And I do believe in science. So like, I don't believe like spirituality does not coincide with science. I think they work hand in hand, and that's the law of matter. So yeah.
Brilliant. And I mean, obviously, being on Ask the Answer, is there other things that you would like to experience? Sometimes people go into spiritual churches, they do platform shows, they teach people psychic development courses. Is there other avenues, or is there things that you've started already that you do apart from just working on the phone lines?
Yeah, I mean, like, I think I want to do more yoga retreats. I think like I don't practice enough yoga, or don't teach enough. It's kind of like I teach groups and then I'll stop. I'll teach classes, then I'll stop. I want that to be more consistent, because I think the somatic practice is so important to just the spiritual one. So that's sort of my idea, but bring again yoga into the workplace. I think that's I really want to do.
Yeah, and I imagine most people who like yoga or like psychic readings as well, if they're going to those sort of classes, they're open to it.
Yeah, they're definitely open.
Brilliant. Do you have any other hobbies, any interests?
I read a lot. I love to dance. I love to go out, what else do I do? I write a lot. I love to write.
What sort of things do you write?
I write poetry. I write blog stories, my opinions about things. Like I like to walk. Like I love nature so much. It really grounds me. Yeah, I'm very sportive too. Like I like kickboxing as well.
Oh, brilliant. So you're a busy lady.
Yeah.
And you live in France. I mean, have you got family around you? Are you yourself in a relationship? You have children? Where are you at with all that?
I have a cat.
Is it black? Is it a black cat? A witch's cat?
No, I have a ginger cat who's like quite big.
Brilliant.
I have friends here. I have a lot of friends in London, friends in the States. I have friends around the world, actually. My family is in America. Like the person that I'm really close to is my mother. So she's in America. But I've always kind of been a free spirit and go where the wind takes me. So.
Aquarians are, aren't they? Lots of my Aquarius friends are. They love a festival and they love traveling.
Yeah, I love a festival.
Brilliant. Oh, it's lovely. I mean, how often do you get a chance to work on the phone lines then? Because it sounds like you are a busy lady and you've only just obviously started with us. So how often and what times of days do you tend to go on?
I tend to go on 10 through 5, Monday through Friday, just because I'm doing strategic work at the same time. So it just kind of helps. So I'm always on during the weekday.
Perfect. And if anyone is thinking, oh, I'd love to speak to this lady, but I've never had a psychic reading before. I mean, just in a nutshell, if somebody said, how would you describe yourself as a psychic reader, what could you offer somebody today on a phone line reading?
Yeah, I mean, if you call, I typically hear you out, hear what you're, saying, what's going on, and then I ask source to tell me what you need to know at this time. And then I just literally use my clairs to tell you what I'm seeing or feeling. Sometimes I'll use tarot, but now, because I've been doing it so long, I don't really need tarot to help me. But if you ask for it, I will use tarot on your behalf. But I just basically will tell you, this is what I'm seeing, this is what I'm feeling, these are the practical steps that you might want to try if you're in this particular situation. But I'm just going to read the energy essentially and give you what I see. I avoid doom and gloom, but I also am quite direct and tell you what I'm seeing and feeling. And, I try to be as compassionate as possible, but it's going to be the reality of things. I think sometimes people think that, oh, I'm not hearing what I want. I'm, that means I'm doing something wrong. And I say, like, just because you're not hearing what you want, just because things are not, what you want, doesn't mean you can't change the energy. If I'm telling you something, I try to say that my readings are just a resource, not the source. So if you're not hearing what you want, maybe it's a matter of changing your approach, your thinking, your belief. And I will try to give you as much advice to help you navigate a way to get what you want in life.
Yeah. Yeah, no, brilliant. Well, I'm sure there's going to be lots of people that want to speak to you after the podcast and hearing all about yourself. What's your PIN number if you want to come through? Do you know that off by heart yet?
I do not.
Well, that's all right. I screen grabbed it earlier on. Let me have a little look. It is.
I think it's 700663.
That's it. Yeah, perfect. Lovely. And the next time I speak to you, are you going to still be in France long term, or is this, you go off on another venture, another place, or is this where you're going to stay for a while now?
I'm going to stay for the next year and hopefully after that.
Yeah. And who knows where those yoga retreats will take you.
Yeah.
Well, Ashley, it's been lovely speaking today and getting to know you. Thank you so much for coming through onto the podcast, Ask the Answer, that will also be going out on social media and different platforms, so people really get to see you and get to hear all about you. But keep up the good work. Good luck with all your goals and ambitions, and hopefully we'll have a bit of an update further on down the line.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's been great to speak to you as well.
Lovely. Take care, Ashley.
Bye.
Bye.